That's why we're doing these things. We talk to each other. We get our thoughts out that this is how we are, who we are. And if you can't get on the bandwagon, the only person that it's hurting is you who doesn't get on the bandwagon with people like Eve and me, because we got it rocking. We're happy. We may have some anger issues every now and then, but this is how we get it out.
This is absolutely hilarious. Hi, guys, and welcome to the House Call Vet Cafe podcast. I'm Dr. Eve Harrison. I'm a full-time integrative concierge house call veterinarian in Los Angeles, and I help other vets to build their unique mobile practices on their terms. This podcast is for and by house call and mobile veterinarians, so it is meant to give our community a platform to connect, to share our stories, to lift each other up, and to support each other. Most of us work solo as lone wolves, right? So for me, it's been really powerful to be able to physically hear the voices of my colleagues from all over the world and to get a chance to feel that we truly are part of a community of very real other human beings who get it. While you may be alone in that little bubble of your own vehicle when you're on the road seeing patients, I welcome you to join our community by tuning into our own podcast when you're on your way to your next house call. Whether you're a super experienced house call vet with 30 years of experience, you're a brand new prospective house call vet just looking to get started, or you're house call curious, there will be something for you in this podcast. Each episode, you will hear interviews from other mobile veterinarians just like yourself who are doing unique and innovative things, vets who are sharing their stories, their struggles and challenges, and you can also look forward to hearing valuable information and perspectives from specialists and experts outside of our micro niche. And finally, if becoming a house call veterinarian is something that you've been thinking about exploring, or you're looking for some extra support getting your own mobile practice to feel more profitable and sustainable for you, check out the information in the show notes about my course and our above and beyond supportive private community for members only, plus our monthly group coaching sessions within the House Call Vet Academy. You can also check out my free public Facebook group, which is also called the House Call Vet Cafe, the same name as this podcast, and which is a warm and cozy community for mobile vets to support each other in professional and personal development, in creative entrepreneurship, and in friendship. So thank you guys for spending time with me today. Let's dive into the episode. Hey, welcome back. Thank you for joining us with part 2 of our interview with Dr. Priya Bhatt. So if you're joining us for the first time in this conversation, this is part 2 of a 2-part episode. Dr. Priya and I had just so much to talk about that we had to make it into 2 episodes. So here we go. Dr. Bhatt is an integrative veterinarian who received her Doctor of Veterinary Medicine in 2009 from the University of Illinois College of Veterinary Medicine. She became certified in acupuncture through the Chi Institute of Traditional Chinese Veterinary Medicine. She is also certified in Level 2 Reiki and chiropractic manipulation. In addition, Dr. Bhatt used to sit on the board of directors for the Chicago Veterinary Medical Association. She used to practice as a referral-based specialty house call vet for acupuncture and integrative medicine for 7 years and still serves those clients at home, even though she's primarily offering in-clinic services through Arya Animal Acupuncture. Dr. Bhatt's medical care philosophy involves finding the appropriate balance between both Western and Eastern therapy options. Welcome back, Dr. Priya, and here we are with part 2, the continuation of our conversation from back in December. I wanted to actually shift the conversation a little bit. I want to make sure we get to this important subject because I know we talked about it at length in August while eating our ice cream. I wish I remember what flavors we got because they were so weird. We talked about your experiences in veterinary medicine related to ethnic background, racial issues, and how you've been treated and what you've experienced. I personally have had, as a Jewish person, numerous vital things said, not only recently, but over the course of my career. So I wanted to hear, I'm not going to go into my story now, but I would love to hear from your perspective. Just if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I've had kind of a mixed experience because Chicagoland was fairly progressive, when I was born in the 80s. And the only time as a child that I felt any degree of, I wouldn't even say racism, actually, considering like it's religious persecution is probably what I would kind of call it is, so if you're being.
You're Indian, and what is your religion?
Yes. So ethnicity is Indian from India. but I'm American in nationality since I was born and raised in Chicago. However, I have a very good kinship with India, as with actually a very good kinship with Mexico too, because those are the two countries I visited fairly regularly ever since I was a kid. And I have relatives in India still, and I'm very close to them. I want to go back when the time is right for me to step away for the business for about 2 weeks, which the time is not right now. But I would say the very first time was when I transitioned into a public school from a private school in seventh grade. I made some friends. So, probably somewhere around seventh or eighth grade, there was a friend that I made, and we were really good friends. And then one day, I have virtually no recollection of like what we were talking about, but she asked me if I was Christian. And I was like, well, listen to the name, Priya Bhatt. Like, what part of that is Christian? And she's like, well, what are you? I'm like, well, I'm raised Hindu. I'm not really a huge practicing religious person, but if I identify with Hindus and Buddhists. And so she's like, oh, so you're going to go to hell. And I'm like, and she's like, well, you don't follow our savior, Jesus Christ. So you're going to go to hell. And I'm like, well, that's funny because in my religion, we don't have a hell. So, okay. And then terminated our relationship because I was like, you're batshit bananas. And
Interrupt you really quick. This is like a childhood story. You're gonna love this one too.
yeah,
I've been told also that I'm gonna go to hell. And I also had this was one of my very first memories of like my earliest childhood friends who said to me, I don't like Jewish people. My family doesn't like Jewish people at all, but I do like you. And I remember at that time being like, oh, thank God. I'm not like those terrible
oh,
other Jewish people.
oh,
Like that like stays with you for your life, it's like just comments like that starting from
yeah,
childhood and then like
no, absolutely.
like through the professional spheres to like continue
Oh,
at this level, right? Like unbelievable.
definitely. Definitely. I mean, it is very traumatizing. I mean, I wasn't traumatized by what she said. I literally thought she was batshit stupid because I'm like, we've been friends for all this time and all of a sudden now it becomes important. So I was like, what about, the last year we've been friends? Like, so and that should never, for some reason, like being told you're going to hell and all that nonsense for not, Savior Jesus Christ, like I don't know. It never really bothered me, mainly because, like, what people forget, if you listen to your history, which most idiots don't, is that the British invaded India. And so my mother went to a Catholic university to get her education. So her English is better than American English. Her writing is better. Her knowledge in some parts of the Bible and churches is very high. And she was raised by her family and by the British residual impact being still there in India to just have a healthy respect for other religions and cultures. And so my brother and I were raised as such. It didn't matter if you were Jewish or Hindu or Christian or Catholic or Presbyterian but it is the new generation that can choose how they want to honor that, either move forward and continue to honor our ancestors, continue religious persecution against each other, or we start recognizing that like this was of our ancestors and we can choose to just be a modernized individual who can be Muslim or can be Hindu or be Christian or Jewish or whatever. And in fact, India is one of the most accepting countries because it has a variety of different religions, a variety of different cultures that are now going there to actually study and become better higher educated from different countries. But in terms of, where else I felt other types of persecution, didn't actually happen until vet school. And it was really kind of scary for me because I came from LA. So I left when I was 18, went to LA at 18 years old and stayed for 7 years. And so for 7 years, I was an LA girl surrounded by Black, white, Persian, Korean, Filipino, what you name it, we got it. Right. And so I was already a bit afraid when I came to vet school because I came down to Champaign, Illinois, which was predominantly white. Majority of the people that were not white were actually a lot of researchers and professors. So in vet school, in all of the other buildings around, all of the other rooms within the veterinary science building were Koreans, Japanese, Black, Indian, Pakistani, all doing research under the name of veterinary medicine. And so, but that's not what was seen in vet school. In vet school at the time, which was 2005 to 2009, was a predominance of white individuals, of which many of these individuals were coming from locations or towns that had, I think, zero knowledge of seeing an Indian. I mean, people that like obviously
Yeah.
didn't even listen to mainstream media because like Madonna, the Beatles, like they all were in India. They all brought Indian culture here, among other actors and actresses and singers and musicians, whatever artists. But I learned very quickly how to become a little bit more whitewashed, which is something I never really had to do in LA. In LA, I could be whoever I wanted to be. I could be Greek, I could be Mexican, I could be Persian. Like nobody knew what I was, and I loved it. And I was friends with everybody.
Well,
But
I like pause and say also for folks that don't know, I'm first generation Ashkenazi Jewish. So I'm white, but my entire life people have been confused about my ethnicity. So there's like a little bit of ambiguity. Like when I went to Bangladesh, they were like, "Are you Bangladeshi?" And I'm like, "No, but thank you. That's such an incredible compliment." But I also like I've loved that too, like that I'm a little bit culturally or ethnically ambiguous. People
yeah,
think
I like that. I like to not be
they're
known.
like, "I don't know how you think I'm Asian, but okay, like, thank you." That's just all. And, like, my mom actually can look Asian sometimes. It's weird. I don't know why, but, like, that part of the world has, like, some ambiguous, like, where we come from, but I love that, like, kind of blending with
Dude,
anything, especially in Los Angeles. Like, I love that about being here. Like, being 2% of the world and 2% of the US population, like being Jewish is not exactly the same as everyone else, you know what I mean? So like I
wait,
just
what's the population percentage?
2%, 2.4%,
2%?
2.4% of the US population is Jewish and 0.2% of the world is Jewish. So like
You've
there's
got to be kidding me. Then, girl,
I
you definitely need to come out here because I'm in Jewish Central.
oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, literally, like North
Pockets.
Shore.
There's pockets of us for sure.
Yeah, but and this is a huge pocket.
But,
So
like, you could be any ethnicity and it would be okay, and here in LA, like, and then you came to Chicago. Oh, no, then you came to vet school.
I came to Champaign, and Champaign was, I mean, again, there were people, but they were more on the graduate side, right? And so, as a veterinary student, you're planted in the veterinary arena side of the university, which is all on this side, whereas the rest of society is all that side, right? So, my classmates, I mean, we were now, we were a big class then, but it turns out now we're considered a small class. We were about 107 or so. And there was probably really just a handful of us. I was the only Indian.
Oh, I bet. I
Yeah. And
bet.
I think that my best friend from vet school is Black, Doreen. And there was another half Black, half white friend, classmate of ours. There were maybe four Asians and then the rest white. And so, like, in fact, the comment that was made happened, like, I think in second year of vet school and didn't even have anything to do with Indian or Hindu. It actually had to do with Mexicans. And
Mm,
so it was a girl in my class who had made a comment in front of everybody, and not even the professor said anything, which to this day, like, I don't know why in my anger I didn't turn around and actually say something to him too. But in general, he was a nice guy. So it was like, it wouldn't have come to my mind because it's not like he was a mean guy. He was generally a very nice, even keeled guy as my professor. But she had made some comment. And again, you make one racist remark, it doesn't matter who that race is, whether it's Jewish, whether it's Black, whether it's Korean. And in this case, it was Mexican. And so it was basically the Mexicans are here to clean our barns. And I just whipped my head around and I don't remember what I said, but I came at her hard. So much
right.
so that he actually had to get involved to stop me from yelling at her. And what I should have said is, I'll stop now, but I expect you to follow this up after this class. And so, and I didn't say that, but that's a retrospect, right? It has to start. So actually, because, and I don't want you to talk about your stories, But I want to kind of reflect on how shocked I was that even here, like we're a very progressive town. North Shore is predominantly filled by Jewish people. And what I see as issues in DEI have everything to do with what is already being a problem that has nothing to do with the race or culture. And that is a lack of appropriate accountability by parents to teach their children better. And then the parents are saying, well, it's not our problem. Let the teachers do it. But then you don't allow the teachers to allow the kids to hold accountability because then every teacher's hand is slapped. Looking at the scope of veterinary medicine and how DEI relates, you're looking at generational racism and religious prosecution that has nothing to do with us. It is active effort to teach oneself and teach people around you that this is not okay. So, what I was going to say is that yesterday, a client of mine came in and she's just been really stressed, and that's not her MO. So, we were talking, and she revealed to me that she is Christian, raised, Catholic raised, whatever, but her husband is Jewish. So the kids are raised Jewish. They're boys and that was a decision, is that they're going to go through the Jewish everything. So apparently a kid in school made a Holocaust joke. And I sort of looked at her before she said anything else. And I looked at her and I'm like what group? And I think she said it was like they're like eighth grade. I was like, to even have that level of knowledge about the Holocaust is not really there. So, how does one even come to the point of making a Holocaust joke? And it turns out that what happened was a kid was not trying to be offensive, but was trying to be funny, but nobody is doing anything. And so, I don't have children, but I immediately looked at her and I said, not only do I think you need to take this to the school board's not listening, you take it all the way up. Because what I have a problem with is that this kid didn't get a mandatory expulsion for a few days. Like, it needs to go back to hold the parents accountable. And if nothing happens to the kid, then the parents are not held accountable to teach differently, right? But if the parents are held accountable by, guess what? You can't have your 3 days of going to work or 3 days of doing your manicure because you got now 3 days that you got to watch your kid because we expelled him for referencing this topic that he should not even have known about. And if he
Right.
knew about it, would never have the audacity to make a joke about it. Because under no circumstances, under no conversation is religious persecution, and especially the Holocaust, ever anything to discuss. Like, it is not something to talk about in fun. It is only to discuss, to mourn, and to revere those who had battled for their lives. And it shouldn't be seen as anything else. And so what's happening is the school board didn't do anything. So now she's taking it to the next level. And I was just so shocked because I'm like, not only are we in a progressive part of Chicago, we're in freaking North Shore. I mean, y'all, 50% of North Shore is Jewish. Okay. And the one of the things that I feel like Indians and Jewish, we get each other really well is because we're made fun of a lot. But a lot of the things that we have are elements of what we're taught are absolutely true. Like our cultural methods of being taught are true. What David talks about in Judaism versus like what is taught in Hinduism is very much co-aligned. But anyways, going back to DEI, I was pleasantly surprised when I went down to University of Illinois for student AVMA that there was practically a 50% increase in Latin Americans in vet.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So I had never in my life in vet school seen postings for dance night, Latin dance night. I was like, I would have had so much fun in vet school if this existed. But it was rough. It was rough because I felt very whitewashed and I didn't really like the fact that the Indian culture really, nobody knew about it very much when, like, again, by 2005, 2009, like so many celebrities, including Gwen Stefani, had made such a mark with the Indian culture that it baffled me. And quite honestly, I didn't think that I actually thought people who didn't know about the Indian culture were kind of dumb. That was including my real estate agent when she looked at my hand and is like, what is that? And I'm like, you've never seen henna? Like, Madonna's worn it, Bonnie's worn it. Like, really? Like, Mother
Hilarious.
Teresa been in India, like showing color? Nothing? No, nothing. So, yeah, I mean, it just goes back to like a fundamental countrywide problem of lack of accountability. People are not educating themselves. If you don't take an effort to understand what each religion is standing for and why they're standing for it and just respecting them. Once we become a veterinarian, we have so many other battles that we're running against. So I think at the, showing color by promoting internships and externships in your hospital, recruiting cultural and religious different people, whether it's culture, religion, sex, gender, like by being more inclusive and making the public feel that they can speak to people and not feel like they're too white or too Jewish or too black or whatever. I have a pretty good range of everything. I do, from different religions to different cultures, different colors, different sex orientations. And like at the end of the day, there's only one thing that I care about is like, how good is your intention for your pet? I already know that for us, every day is a struggle to make sure we're doing better, we're doing right. And part of that, I think if every veterinarian asks themselves that question, if they're doing better and if they're doing right, and if under those questions, if there's any indication of religious persecution or racism or sexism or genderism or any type of negative feeling towards a person that is not founded upon who that person is as a human being, then fuck y'all is what I gotta say.
Yeah.
Impact on me is what I gotta say. So yeah. So I'm still a veterinarian and I'm crushing it. So anybody can insult me at this point. It really zero impacts me. Zero. It could be the top veterinarians, surgeon or internist. First of all, I've not had those issues, but like, if anything, luckily in Chicagoland, it's been mostly a holistic vet to holistic vet problem where we don't have a good group of holistic vets that are supportive to each other. But aside from that, like, you live for yourself, right? I live for myself. That's why we're doing these things. We talk to each other. We get our thoughts out that this is how we are, who we are. And if you can't get on the bandwagon, the only person that it's hurting is you who doesn't get on the bandwagon with people like Eve and me, because we got it rocking. We're happy. We may have some anger issues every now and then, but this is how we get it out.
This is absolutely hilarious. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Priya, for these amazing thoughts, for the laughs, for
You're not tired of listening to me?
no, I'm not tired of listening to you. I also want to just like thank you for your promotion of camaraderie between house call vets, between holistic and Western medicine. And like, even for those of you watching the YouTube video, I'm wearing this like ridiculous coverall suit that is like covered in mushrooms, given to me just the other day by another house call vet, Dr. Daniela Castillo,
I love
who is
it.
still like an acupuncturist. And like, we just like hung out, had drinks, caught up on everything. And like, the love between, other house call vets can be just like so massive. And I love that you're just like such an advocate for this connection and like the collaboration and referring back and forth. And, like it's just gotten better and better the more I've leaned into that collaboration and just like supporting each other and just being here for each other's stories. And, I know you told me about a lot more persecution based on your ethnic background and religion when we met up in August. But thank you for sharing a little bit of some of the experiences that you've had, for sharing that vulnerably, and for your openness to discuss these difficult subjects. And I hope everyone else has enjoyed this very, very riveting conversation and found, something to learn and something to celebrate. And I can't wait for our next conversation. So thanks
Yeah.
again.
I mean, I think with all that, let me just say that we all, as veterinarians and doctors, want to have that control of everything, but it is about letting go control. That's when true friendships and true, like, amazing connections happen and projects happen. And so let go.
Amazing. On that note, I'm going to let you guys go. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and I do hope you guys enjoyed it. This was part 2 of an episode with Dr. Priya Bhatt, honestly, from a few months ago. And it is true that there was a little bit of a delay in getting this part of the conversation out to you guys. And there's kind of a personal reason for that. So
Unfortunately, the holdup for me as of late has been that I've personally experienced and witnessed a slew of acutely uncomfortable bigotry and ignorance directly from within the veterinary community in the last few months. So I do want to acknowledge that while I too, like Dr. Priya Bhatt said, was surprised by the homogeneity of the veterinary profession that I found when I got to vet school, and I've always craved more diversity within our profession. That's kind of old news at this point, but kind of more recently and between episodes 1 and episodes 2, as I was organizing our conference for House Call Vets in February, there were simultaneously some quite devastating things happening and that Jewish veterinarians in our community were facing, and I needed to kind of sit with that and figure out how I wanted to handle it, or even if I wanted to handle it and open up anything at all related to these types of subjects on this podcast. So honestly, I'm still figuring it out. And I sort of felt it was time to share this second part of this episode that does touch upon inclusivity, diversity, things like that. But for now, I think what I'd really like to say is how very grateful I am to my friends and colleagues who have expressed and who have demonstrated true allyship. And to elaborate a little bit, I personally experience allyship when I feel in a person a willingness to be curious, to give up perceived expertise and self centering in favor of humility. And humility, if you haven't figured out by now from my content, is one of the attributes that I cherish the most in the world. The people that I respect most in this world know how to hold friendship, connection, understanding with actual people that they know who are literally speaking their truths. And they hold all of those things above righteousness or above amplifying dangerous propaganda language. So, to those of you who are true allies, thank you for not adding hate on top of hate during this time. Thank you for all of your curiosity, your love, your willingness to learn, and for your true friendship and support. I hope that we can continue to work on our camaraderie and our inclusiveness within our profession together.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the House Call Vet Cafe. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never have to miss an episode. This podcast is made specifically for you, so don't be shy if you'd like to reach out and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as the House Call Vet Academy, where I also share more valuable content. If you're interested in learning more about consulting for House Call Vets or the House Call Vet Academy online course and community, please click on the link in the show notes. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I can't wait for you to join us for our next episode of the House Call Vet Cafe.